What most people think.
Hello and welcome to this breaking news episode of What Most People Think. And there is what we're going to talk about. Well, look, there is stuff that I was convinced. So what I do is for the breaking news episode, after the main one goes out Tuesday, I keep a little note on my phone of stuff that we might talk about. And there was stuff on Tuesday, I swear to God, I 100% thought we'd be discussing. Starmer made some speech on Tuesday, but I don't know. Keir Starmer's speeches are sort of like 2020 cricket versus Test cricket. By that, I don't mean colourful and exciting. I just mean that at the moment they finish, no one gives a shit about them. Like to make us. Are there any worse words in the human language, right? What was Ronald Reagan's quote? What was that? The worst thing you can hear is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. But the other one is, Keir Starmer will be speaking shortly. I hope he speaks very shortly. But yeah, there's been plenty, man. We had a PMQs, which really caught the eye. Really caught the eye. This trend that Keir Starmer has of not answering questions kind of accelerated, really, that he didn't even make any kind of attempt after a while to answer questions. And there were counter-accusations about Kemi Badenoch's stance on the war and her shadow justice secretary, stuff that he'd been tweeting. So that all kind of kicked off. Like I've been saying for a while, PMQs went from being the most irrelevant thing ever to sort of beating out the rhythm of our politics to an extent. Was that a pretentious sentence there? Beating the rhythm of the politics. Anyway, you know I'm getting at. So we're going to unpick that a little bit. Angela Rayner, the whole thing of Keir Starmer not doing very well and not being liked by a lot of his party hasn't really gone away. I mean, I say it again. A majority of people think that his policy on the war is the right policy, and a majority or a plurality of people think that he's handling it badly. That just shows you how kind of bad this guy's brand is. But anyway, Angela Rayner, she's on maneuvres now. It looks like she's going to get a deal with the revenue, and she's done some weird. Popped up in the kind of basement of a pub. I don't know, like some sort of comedy open mic night, and she said that time's running out. I've got to work on that accent. She could be Prime Minister. And she's had a pop at the OBR on various things, and she's just clearly on manoeuvres. And I suppose that with the May elections, local elections coming up, maybe she's banking that whatever's happening in the Middle East might be done and dusted by then, and Keir Starmer's issues remain. Thankfully, there's also been finally a bit of Ed Davey scrutiny again on this podcast for a while. That guy's just been flying under the radar, and he tried to pull out Wacky Ed. That guy on Comic Relief that wore a red nose the first year and just thought it was the funniest thing ever, and is still, goes in with a red bowler hat and one of those dicky bow ties that twirls. He's that guy, and people are finally starting to cotton on to him. And then if we've got time, we're going to talk about Donald Trump is he going a bit mad, or is he just as mad as any 80-year-old man would be what he's got on his plate? There was, of course, what he said to the Prime Minister of Japan, which, I mean, if you haven't heard it, just needs to be heard to be believed. Just before we do a piss take price, if you're on Spotify, I slightly misunderstood the deal with Spotify. So you can all watch the video if you're on Spotify, but if you want the video without ads, you have to go to Spotify Premium. So if you like the video stuff, you dirty bastards, you can watch it on YouTube. The YouTube version does go up a bit later than the main feeds, but yeah, that's the new world we live in. And listen, I know I slacked it off. I'm really terrible at this game. I should just be saying what you've got to do is thank your followers constantly, every little thing. But I have to be honest, I think it's weird that people like watching the video of it. I've got to start up in my visual game, because I did the one this week with Marcus Brigstock. By the way, loads of great feedback about that episode. It was a good fun one, that. But I just had a shower and it looked like I'd been involved in another activity. Let's put it that way. Piss take price, Stansted drop off. So one of those prices that you always keep an eye on that just goes up. Do you know what I mean? Without any real rationale or logic, it just goes up, doesn't it? Like council tax, it's gone up again. Why? It just has. Other things, they go, chocolate's gone up. Why? Because of the price of cocoa. Airport drop-offs have gone up. Why? Because there's a world shortage of parking space outside airports. Absolute bollocks. Then they'll always say, we're trying to encourage people under onto public transport. No, you fucking aren't. Anyway, this was, sorry to the person that shared this with me. I haven't got the name, but the fee for vehicle drop-offs directly outside the terminal at Stansted Airport has been increased to £28 for stays between 15 and 30 minutes. Rates for vehicles stopping for under 15 minutes. So you could say, well, that's kind of like sort of parking in a way, right? You could just about make an argument. But the rates for vehicles stopping for under 15 minutes has also increased by 40%, from £7 to £10. So the Gammony Martin Lewis that I am, I say, avoid Stansted. Go to Luton Airport. No one wants to go to Luton Airport, do they? Jesus Christ. New patrons. Who have we got here? I don't know. We got Paul. So Paul, I don't know Paul's second name. Paul works in a woke institution. What is Paul? Is he one of those primary school teachers that was like a city trader? It all got to him after a while. He's one of those people that says, I had to get out of the rat race. You go, fucking hell, poor fella. And then you find out that he got out of the rat race with 7 million quid still, and is sort of being a primary school teacher as a passion project. And he's gone really woke now. Hates his former life, but still has the money. Elizabeth May, sound like a Tudor ship. The Elizabeth May set sail from Portsmouth on 1546, stocked with tobacco and livestock, but was hit by a swell in the Bay of Biscay. And the good ship Elizabeth May, which for some reason it was acceptable back in the day to have a topless woman on the front, even though nudity was generally frowned upon. You're welcome, Elizabeth May. Brian Hendry. I mean, that is a very naturally rock and roll name. It would be easy to go like frontman guitarist, but also I think Brian Hendry, you're more kind of the backroom thing, you know. It's cross between Brian Epstein and who is the Colonel, the Elvis Presley guy. It's always somebody behind the odds, stealing money and going silently mad. So maybe that's you, Brian Hendry.
Early birds always rise to the occasion for summer vacation planning, because early gets you closer to the action. So don't be late. Book your next vacation early on Vrbo and save over $120. Rise and shine. Average savings $141. Select homes only.
The thank you and the fuck you. The thank you is just the gigs. Oh, first up, the record. So straight after Monday's episode with Marcus Brigstock, I was up to Newcastle for the first two records for the new series of Jeff Norcott's Working Men's Club, which will be out in a while. And it was great. I mean, I'd forgotten, because I've been doing this tour show and I loved it. This tour show, honestly, I'm like a kid in a candy shop. Every time, I just love it. I look forward to it going on. I know what I'm doing with it. I'm adding new bits here and there. But all of a sudden, I was a bit cocky going up there. I was going, yeah, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? I'm gig fit. It's going to be fine. And then just about like an hour before this, I was really nervous because I was going, I'm about to say stuff, 70% of which I've never said out loud before. But the audience were cracking up there. I mean, the stand in Newcastle was just a cracking venue, man. Just a really, you're lucky, good people in Newcastle, you got a venue like that, you know, proper comedy venue. And it was good. We had one lady heckler who was, she'd indulged before, and I think her sort of angle was that she's very left-wing, but she wants to hear from people like me, and that was fine. But it was a radio record, and the first episode sort of overran by 20 minutes, and a lot of that was me sort of saying, we've got to move on now, love. But in the end, it was a great record, so thanks to everybody for that. Where have I been gig-wise? I was in... My God, it's one of those weeks. I cannot remember. Where was I on Wednesday? I was in Chorley. Lindsay, hey, you, shut up. I was in Chorley, and I went for a walk around Chorley. It's nice there. This is the thing about doing my job. What you realise, honestly, and people won't believe me, but there are places up north which are actually quite nice. Genuinely. I don't know if it was because maybe it was the first nice spring day of the year, but I went for a walk there, and there was a park near the venue. It was just one of the best parks I've ever seen. And I was standing there for a while, and I just thought, you're a middle-aged man just standing looking into a park. Time to move on. And then last night, did my first ever gig in Worcester. Again, what a well-kept secret Worcester is. Do you know what I mean? Look, it's no Bath. Let's be honest, Bath is, a thing unto itself. But Worcester's an attractive-looking place with the river and the cathedral, nice food places. Yeah, I might be doing a little UK-based mini break if the whole oil thing carries on in Worcester. And then coming up this week, where are we? Tomorrow night in Folkestone, Saturday, sold out. And then Peterborough, that was moved into a much bigger room. So there are tickets available. We've got good numbers there. Next week, just to really hype this, Wednesday, Solihull, First time back there for a while. The crumbly concrete has been solved. And then Coventry the following day. Coventry, we could do a few. If you're in Coventry, tell your mates, you know what I mean? Coventry, big room, numbers in, but we could do a few more there. And then Portsmouth the following Tuesday. Winchester's now nearly sold out. Ilkley on Saturday the 4th. That was a new date, so hopefully see you there. The fuck you is, I've got a double fuck you this week, is to fussy prick on a train. Fussy prick on a train. So I got on the train up to Newcastle. I was in a standard class, and I thought, just treat yourself, Jeff. You've got to prepare for this. Pay the extra. The upgrade was like 60 quid. It's not cheap, but I thought, pay the extra. You get a bit of peace and quiet, bit of space, rinse the free drinks. And there was a guy next to me. People make lots of noise naturally, really bugged the shit out of me. And this guy was just constantly fussing in his space. He just constantly going, he kept making that noise. I don't know if he'd never been on a train and he thought these are the train noises that a man must make, but he just was rustling his stuff and taking shit out of his bag and put it back in there. And look, maybe this is me straying into being intolerant of the neurodiverse. I have no idea whether or not this guy was or not. I don't know why it annoyed me so much. It just stop making noises. Christ, I cannot stand just noises from people. Breathing. Worst noise ever in the world is somebody smoking while you're on the phone to them. That noise, or eating a fucking apple. If you ever want to talk to me, just do either one of those two things. The double fuck you is to men. I just did it. I literally did it myself. Such a hypocrite. The other fuck you is to men just taking off their shirts randomly in TV shows and films. It's so funny because obviously for years we had male writers, and people would say, oh, these male writers, they can't write women, they're perverts, they always manage to write in a sex scene or showing a bit of flesh. And now we've got more female writers. It is hilarious to me how often they just do exactly the same. Maybe it's revenge for all the years being subjugated to perfect female bodies. I don't know. But I was watching the Lisa McGee thing on Netflix, very good, How to Die in Belfast, or Get to Heaven in Belfast, or From Belfast. And there's this Irish fella in there, and he was about 6'2", really handsome fella. And I set a clock. I was like, how long is it before this prick gets his fucking abs out? It's so funny. I don't mind. I get it. You know what I mean? We're all perverts. I just wish women would admit that they're perverts. Would admit. It's like when they go to Magic Mike and they go, oh, it's just a laugh for the girls. Is it? Just own it, ladies. We have to own that we're fucking wrong-uns.
What most people think.
Okay, let's get into the politics, and let's start with hashtag fiery PMQs. So the context of this PMQs was that the previous week there had been files released late about Pete Mandelson. So just conveniently, just after PMQs, the government had released those files. So we had that story at the back end of this week, but this was, Kemi's first chance to have another go at Mando. Have we got a film coming out? The Mandalorian. That's what we should call it, not the Mandalorian, the Mandalorian and Grogu. It's just about some creepy old guy that hangs out with billionaire nonces. So those files come out. Kemi wants to have a go at that, and it's difficult for her because, well, what Starmer has said her position on the war is or was isn't exactly true, but equally she did shift around a bit. She was definitely more hawkish in the first instance. So she goes in with a straightforward question, which is, it's already out there, that he did not speak to Peter Mandelson ahead of the appointment as a US ambassador or afterwards, which you would think for Captain Forensic, the grown-ups are back in the room, but the grown-ups do not speak to other grown-ups. And so she asked, did you speak to him? And the reason is she just, like when she nailed him on Mandelson before, she wants it to be in the public domain. Him saying it, right? So he having been caught once like that, he's never answering that. Which politically, it's the sharp practice of politics. That's kind of what I think most people would do in this situation, to be fair to him. But it only kind of works if you execute it with any subtlety at all. So quite clearly, his handlers have said, just go for Iran. Just go for Iran. Whatever she says, she's going to go for it repeatedly. Just go for Iran. It's difficult territory for her. Go for Iran. And also, a Shadow Justice Secretary has said this thing about Muslims on social media. You know, you can switch to that at some point. What I do not believe is that they would have advised him to go for it so quickly and without any fucking agility whatsoever. So he gives a half answer the first time. So she's going, I'll give you another chance. A yes or no question. Did you speak to Peter Mandelson at all? And he doesn't even make a gesture towards answering the question. He just goes, so she said, and like, oh my God, I just thoughts and prayers to Keir Starmer's handlers, because I cannot believe that what he does in P&Qs is what he's been advised to do. I think he takes a flavour of what those guys are saying to him, and he just goes to an extreme with it, and he gets upset, and he cannot fathom that anyone could ever think that he's the bad guy. So he has to throw out, no, you're the bad guy. You're the bad guy. You're bad. I'm good. I'm a good person. And and the net effect is weird, because if he'd have done it with any agility, that wouldn't in itself have been a story, right? So say, for example, he'd have gone, well, number 10 operation has already given out words to that effect. So he doesn't completely evade the question, but he doesn't give the clippable bit that she's looking for. But what happens is, it's so notable that he's not answering the question that all of the opposition benches, probably even the Lib Dems, for God's sake, are kind of getting frustrated with this, because this is a bit contemptuous. And what's sort of odd is that, he's sort of saying, she took us to war. The weird thing with him recently is he's sort of adopted the role of Kemi Badenoch is the leader, and he's back in his safe space of being the opposition. And while, a Shadow Justice Secretary saying things about Muslim prayer being an act of domination, and the leader of the opposition having a hawkish position initially, which they've changed, they're legitimate stories. It's just that he has to understand that the stuff that the Prime Minister did with one of the most senior appointments possible is always going to be the bigger story. So Farage got his question. It's so funny with Farage, like when you see people online where they just, I don't, with the anti, like the people that really hate Farage, I don't know what they would think is a reasonable amount of coverage. Now, you could say over the years that on Question Time, and because he's a good oratory presence, that Farage has been over-presented at times, but right now he is the head of a party which has been top of the polls for ages, and now, because of defections, has a number of MPs. It's so funny. I'd love to ask those people that are very anti-Farage how much exposure should he get. Because on social media, whenever he talks, he stands up, does his thing, talks in his way. And people are like, just stop giving this man airtime. Stop giving exposure. One person was saying that Keir Starmer should just not have responded to him. Well, he sort of didn't respond to him in a way, because Farage rather, was asking about oil field drilling sites. This is another, issue about, why. I mean, I think it is fair to say that given the potential resources we have, dwindled though they may be, it's hard to think that any other country in the world right now, wouldn't be drilling. So, that's a legitimate question. And again, Starmer doesn't even gesture towards it. Just a week ago, he wanted us to be in this war. I suppose because what Starmer's found is the one thing that he has done, or rather not done, which is kind of apt for Starmer, that the thing he's most popular for is not doing something in a way. And even then, American bombers still taking off from British bases. But that's all he wants to do. He's just so fucking psyched. But again, he can't just do a little bit of agility, make a motion towards answering the question. He just goes straight into it. And people got really angry about it, and it got a lot of coverage. And, another thing that's been long running on this podcast is the belief that the speaker should be able to adjudicate like an umpire. Like in LBW, you can be out if the ball hit you outside the line but was going on to hit the stump. Really do this for the listeners, Jeff. This is why I'm boosting listenership. Explain the LBW laws. But I'm going to do it. But if you were hit outside the line, if it was going on to hit the stumps, but you didn't offer a shot. And if you didn't offer a shot, I just think that Lindsay Hoyle should just bring his finger up like an LBW decision. So then we got Angela Rayner this week. So the rumours are she's sort of got it sorted with her tax bill. she's going to pay it off. By the way, I think the way she's going to pay it off is by doing public speaking engagements, which is reportedly going to earn her in the realms of £100,000, which is fair play to her. You know, I mean, it's a little bit off brand, I would say, especially as she sort of went in really hard that MPs shouldn't have second job. But you know, I think there's a lot of things, if Angela Rayner does become Prime Minister, that she said before that she's going to have to go back on. I don't know. Maybe it is socialist. Maybe she's redistributing that £100,000 back to the HMRC, which eventually will benefit schools and hospitals. Maybe I would love it if she actually took that angle. But she pops up in, like I say, in a downstairs bar of a pub in Westminster and does a little speech. But the speech is then circulated to all the journos in full. And, you know, she's kind of saying that the time's running out. Time's running out because we're approaching, you know, getting on for the halfway point in the Parliament. Labour is seriously unpopular. Time's running out. I mean, it's pretty direct, isn't it? I'd like to see like an interview with Angela. I don't know if there've been any since, but you know they're normally a bit more coy about their leadership ambitions. I don't know how you can sort of say it's not a leadership bid when you say time's running out. And she criticised Shabana Mahmood for her immigration plans, saying that they were un-British. Which, of course, you know, if you're pitching for Labour leadership, you've got to go left. You got to go left. If you're pitching for Labour leadership, got to go left. Ed Miliband went left. Went more left. He went, how left wing is my brother? Okay, I'll go one more stop down the left wing fucking Piccadilly line of whatever he is. The Miliband line. And, God, that'd be the worst line in the world, wouldn't it? No electricity. It would just be pulled by horses. And Corbyn, well, he went very left, didn't he? He went the leftist of the left. Keir Starmer to become leader went very left. It was basically, we're going to cancel student loans, we're going to nationalise utilities. The moment he got in, went very right. Now he's going back left again. I mean, why don't people trust this man? I think it's very harsh. All he's done is completely change his positions 3 times in the space of 5 years. Rayner goes on to say that she doesn't trust the OBR. You know, she thinks that they don't factor in the potential benefits of public spending. Yeah, but you could say that about tax cuts as well, couldn't you? You know, so tax cuts can generate economic growth, I suppose. I suppose the risk for her is that she could become the left-wing Liz Truss. She could be a left-wing Liz Truss. I mean, that's a fucking tongue twister for her. It's interesting. You look at the economics, you know, the government borrowing is up, unemployment still not looking good. And, you know, the government borrowing is up despite, like, record tax raises. That, to me, is massively concerning. So they put taxes up everywhere and government borrowing has still gone up. I think January was decent, but February, it was back in the shit. And the funny thing that's going to happen for this government is the war will give them cover, won't they? What will happen is there will be inflation, the GDP will stall, maybe go in reverse. There won't be mortgage rate cuts, there might even be increases. And Labour will say it's all because of the war, right? And, you know, the lack of any kind of accommodations that they gave the Tories for the war, right? I mean, Labour almost fated or doomed to go through pretty much the same shit the Tories do. You know, when inflation was 11% and they blamed the Tories for that, they're gonna have to find some sort of like intellectual pivot as to why that was the Tories' fault, but this isn't their fault. I look forward to that. I'm sure they're gonna. No, you know what? I'm sure Keir Starmer's just gonna own it. Or if you ask him a question about it, he'll just carry on not asking questions. You know, are Labour responsible for this economy? I'll tell you something about the House of Lords. What? Is it like that Two Ronnies game? Do you know the Two Ronnies mastermind thing where you have to answer the question from the one before? But, you know, maybe Angela Rayner is doing the right thing. Time is running out. And this conflict might be done in May. You know, people say, is it bad to change leader during a war? Well, we're not directly involved in this war, as Keir Starmer will tell you himself. So it isn't the same as, do you know what I mean? I mean, we change leaders a lot during the Ukraine thing. So I don't think that's necessarily a barrier to entry. And listen, I do think Angela Rayner could absolutely bankrupt the country, but it would be top content.
What most people think.
So Ed Davey finally got a bit of shit this week, and I was there for it, as the kids say. So they had a little conference. I don't know what's going on. There's little mini conferences going on for the political parties. And firstly, there was a video of him kind of doing an organised dance along with some Lib Dems. The ones at the front looked keen. The people at the back were going, fucking, is this what we're doing with our 70-odd MPs? We're doing a flash dance, are we? And it was kind of performatively shit. You could just tell that Ed Davey was like, oh, right, just like falling off the paddleboard. If I deliberately get this wrong, this will go viral. Problem is, it ain't 2024, Ed. We're not in Kansas anymore, all right? Your joke is running old, bruv. You know, it's like I've said before, John Major's soapbox. Public liked it in 92, hated it in 97. Fuck off with your soapbox. That's what they said. Well, that's cute. And take your soapbox and fuck off. That's what happened, right? Broadly speaking, I'm slightly simplifying this, but yeah, Ed Davey, but he started to get shit. I mean, I did a post of him doing the dance. I said, Grandad Ed, what did you do while your party spaffed a generational opportunity to become the main opposition? And there are Lib Dems that are annoyed now because it kind of worked once and he's not really stood for much. He's only that, you know, Donald Trump shouldn't be invited for dinner. And the opportunity for the Lib Dems, right? If you look at their gains at the last election, I've double checked this, I think this is right. 60 of their 61 seats came from Tory seats, right? You would think that you go, hang about. So there's quite a lot of people in the home counties that are probably, you know, socially liberal in the old way, right? In the kind of knowing who has which genitals way. And then, right, there may be an economically right wing, and maybe we just tack a bit that way. No, we're not going to do that, okay? What we're going to do is for the first year and a half at least of Keir Starmer, I'm going to stand up every week, seem like his best mate, even though everyone hates him, right? I'm going to look like I'm going to burst into tears every time I have to ask him a difficult question. Eventually, I will show my teeth a little bit, but at that point, it'll all be baked in. But we will sort of, by that point, have become the Magnolia wing of the Labour Party. Well done, Ed. Well done. Okay, so we're going to talk about Donald Trump here. A little bit worried about Donald's, you know, how he's coping with all the stress. And then if you haven't, you almost certainly have heard this, but it's worth giving it another outing. This is what he said this week to the Japanese Prime Minister. So basically, the preface to it is a Japanese journalist asked why Trump didn't tell allies in the region about the attack, because obviously it was going to have a huge impact. That's where they get a lot of their oil from. And this is his response.
One thing you don't want to signal too much. You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right?
Okay, look, I know there'll be listeners to this podcast that are Trump fans, and God knows, you know, I've always tried to be nuanced and try to acknowledge the good things that he's done, but that is, I just know what he did there, right? Because he likes being funny, and he is a funny bloke. He's in a moment. It's a difficult question, isn't it? Like, you're supposed to be allies. Why didn't you tell us? This has a profound impact for us. And he's searching around his head. He goes, right, what's the Donald Trump thing that I do here? Surprise. Oh, yeah. Pearl Harbor, right? And what's interesting about that is it gets a kind of laugh, and there'll be some sort of sycophantic journalist there, and then it's one of those laughs that fades into, oh, that was disappointing. And then to make it worse, he then turns to the Japanese Prime Minister. She's just sitting there. I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? Like, you've got to show some cultural understanding. What we all know about Japanese culture, it's about, you know, like humility, not being like embarrassed and stuff like that. So he goes to her and she's like, fucking, she just looks like the ground wants to swallow up. And you can tell, I think, that Donald Trump knew that he fucked up, because he was like, yeah, right? Come on, guys. I mean, it's just kind of, you know, it's an insight, isn't it? It's an insight. As I say, with Donald Trump, he is already, whatever he's doing in this conflict, he is already coping with being president and all of this better than almost any other 80-year-old man on the planet could. But that doesn't stop him being an 80-year-old man. Do you know what I mean? And he's going a bit funny, I reckon. He was claiming that he'd spoke to previous presidents who said they wish that you know, they would love to have done what he's doing in Iran. And kind of like they all come out and went, well, he didn't speak to me. So all the living ones have said, well, it wasn't me. Now, they might be lying, but I mean, as somebody else pointed out, maybe he is a previous president, so maybe he spoke to himself. There have been people in his administration who, if not him, but people, you know, who represent him, have sort of been threatening the press and their licenses for unpatriotic coverage of the war. I mean, it's just, And, there's other stuff happening. One head of intelligence thing quit. And then Tulsi Gabbard, who's quite senior in that role, in one context, she sort of said that, after we knocked out their nuclear capabilities, they didn't bother rebuilding them, essentially inferring that there was no imminent risk. But she refused to say that at a committee. And you go, this whole thing is fucking teetering, man. It is teetering. Then, Israel striking and Donald saying that he didn't know about it. It's a very confusing picture, right? And I don't know, man. I was just thinking, if I'd been a moderate American Republican at last election, right, somebody that's kind of gone, right, I just cannot see Kamala Harris as the president. I've got reservations about Trump, but I think, in terms of just leading, I'm gonna hold my nose and hope for the best. I would be worried, right? And then the other question is, what happens if he loses the midterms, right? So then he becomes the very lame duck kind of president. It'd be very difficult for him to do things domestically. I mean, one thing is Donald, it's just one of the world's worst losers. You can just tell, right? You could just tell. If he was a family member and he realises he's losing at Monopoly, that board is getting fucking lobbed. Isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, you'd be going on till you wouldn't even be through the first phase of the game. He'd be refusing to pay rent on hotels. He'd be claiming that you used his builders. Like, Donald, there are no actual builders. They're just tiny little plastic symbols. So he's not going to take that well. And you just got to think, right, we're only a year. Are we even a year and a half into it? Oh my God, it's not even a year and a half. And a lot has happened. And you kind of go, the standard thing for American presidents is if they can't do stuff at home, they do it abroad. And he has TV instincts. The man has to have storylines. And you just sort of think, where is this going? Do you know what I mean? Where is this going? Who around him has the power or the desire to sort of restrain him? And Marco Rubio is quite a smart guy, but he's quite kind of hawkish. He's up for a foreign adventure. He's got that Pete Hegseth guy, who's a bit square-jawed and sort of testosterone-fueled. I don't know, maybe I sound like a bit of a... Look, I know that there'll be a lot of people... Look, the way that Donald Trump has upset certain orthodoxies, it hasn't been all bad. But right now, I just look at this bloke and go, how does another 2.5 years of this presidency look right now? And I think there's cause to be concerned. Okay, so what do you think of that? Plenty to respond back to. You a Starmer fan? Think I've been harsh on Starmer again? Maybe I should have gone in more on Kemi or Angela Rayner. Do you think I'm a bit taken with her? Do I need to be more critical of Rayner? Or Ed Davey, was that too harsh? Or Trump even. If you're a patron, I'll see your messages first and foremost. So go to the website, Patreon, join up through there. And obviously you get your shout out, you get it early, ad-free and with bonus content. And also, people, please leave reviews. So remember to follow the podcast wherever you get it. Just go in that app, go follow, subscribe, usually in the top right-hand corner. If you leave 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, I see them and I read them out. So this one's from Spazzy McGee. Now, he says, Spazzy McGee. He says, thanks for the podcast, 7 years. And this is for Norcott and for Dundee. Okay, got to do it in Scottish, yeah. Thanks for the podcast, 7 years. 7 years. Years. I can't do it in Scottish. And this is for Norcott and Dundee. I just some reason imagine you going over a hill with a fucking sword. So listen, thanks very much for listening. I think we're back next week. Who have we got? We've got a great guest. We've got a great run of guests. Andrew Doyle, Marcus Bridgestock, and then Simon Evans next week. So the podcast will go up for patrons on Monday and then on the main feed Tuesday. Have a great weekend.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Tap the banner to learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.